Hey everybody, Economic Ninja here. I hope you're doing well. We're going to talk about the auto industry today. My auto insider has just shared some very interesting revelations with me. It's very interesting because things are slipping, and this person works for a very large national chain, and things are moving down. And it happened like almost overnight where they were telling me, just even as of recently, things were doing good. Things are still strong. They were not selling certain vehicles, so they were going stronger in the other vehicles, being cheaper vehicles, right? And now all of a sudden, everything's switched. It flipped, and corporate leaders are coming over right now and looking over the books. We're going to get into that and talk about what they're missing right now, or in a second. But we're going to talk about a story out of Bazinga, and it's entitled "Tesla CEO Elon Musk Blames the Banking Crisis for Falling Auto Sales." Now, you know that we've been following the Tesla story for literally since November, October, where Elon Musk came out and said publicly that the auto sales are going to start to decline from here, and we're going to start to only see downside. He said that back in the fall, and that was before everything was heading downward. Since then, Tesla has been very, very proactive in dropping the price of its cars. I believe now we're at 5 price drops. In the beginning, it seemed like to the media like it was more of a stunt to try and get ahead of the EV market, because in the way that they were lowering their prices, it also added to the benefit of the government credits, right? So a lot of people, I think, sort of put it off as though this is them just trying to gain market share. But we found out soon after that it wasn't just that. They literally cannot sell the cars at the current prices. They had to keep dropping, and it's getting worse and worse. So it says right here, Elon Musk on Sunday pegged the ongoing banking crisis in the U.S. as the reason for falling car sales. As Musk said, U.S. residents are finding it harder to get car loans despite good credit. The CEO responding to a Twitter user who shared U.S. sales figures of Toyota Motor Company's Corolla cars. As per the data shared by the user, the Japanese automaker sold a little over 13,500 Corolla cars in the U.S. in March of 2023. That is the lowest sales numbers to date since 2005. Let me stop there and just add 2005 was when everything flipped in the real estate market. That mid 2005 is when I was getting all of these data points from the economy, and that was when I decided to start selling my houses fast. And it wasn't just car sales that were slowing in 2005, but it was home sales, and everybody was getting stretched too thin, right? The wealth effect had gone away, and then from there on out, it was just downside. So now to see, and the Corolla is a very interesting car because it's so important to use that as data, because it is the economy car. It's the quintessential economy car. It is the one where you know that you buy a Corolla not for being flashy, but for literally just getting by. And it's not an insult. My whole life, I've driven, no matter how much I made, honestly, in my net worth, I was probably the only millionaire or multimillionaire driving around a 1994 Honda Civic that looked like it could die at any point. But I did that proud. I was proud of that because I got made fun of by all the guys at the fire station. They used to put quarters down next to the muffler and say that it was spitting out money, because I used to say that every time I drive that car, it makes me money, because I believe that a penny saved is a penny earned. And these guys would literally make fun of me. None of them owned their own cars. I had multiple vehicles. I owned them all, cash, and they would make fun of my little old beater car. So when I talk about the Corolla being the quintessential, economy car, it's not an insult, right? So it says here, they sold they haven't sold this few Corollas since 2005. Corolla sales hit their peak in May of 2008 when it touched 52,826 units. Now, let me explain that, because that's a very interesting point. See, in 2005, what people were doing, or actually before that, because the wealth effect was so intense in America because of the housing market, everybody was going out and buying overly priced, overly sized SUVs. It was insane. They were all over California. You couldn't like go a mile without seeing 10 massive SUVs. Everybody was living the high life. They're in there. The Ford Explorer was the smallest one. We're talking, Cadillac Escalades and all that kind of stuff. But what happened was people started, because of the fuel crisis, and fuel was hit an all-time high in, I believe it was June of 2008. People were diving into economy cars. They could not afford to drive those gas-guzzling beasts. So that's why it hit an all-time high. And so now we have that flip. You have people, like the fewest amount of these consumer cars being sold. But what I'm about to share with the insider, you're going to start to see what's going on here. It's not because people have money and they're diving into SUVs. All vehicles right now are dropping. And so to use the Corolla as an example, that even the economy car is falling in sales numbers is very, very crucial, very important, okay? Now, he says, pegging the ongoing banking crisis as the reason for the problem, Musk said, understandable that banks are slow to extend credit when they're trying to avoid bankruptcy themselves. Now, we've seen U.S. Bank, not U.S. Bank, but I'm blanking out on the bank, Capital One, pull out of the auto industry, right? They were a huge auto lender. There's reports or rumors that Ally is about to do it next. And Ally is the biggest. From what I'm hearing, they're not going to be pulling out of actually retail lending in auto loans, but actually the flooring side. So actually lending to dealers, okay? Because I believe that dealers, and I believe they believe it too, the dealers are in a lot of trouble right now. So that's big. Every time a bank pulls away, remember, that's going to be that much less liquidity. It's going to be that much less competition in the market, making it available with lower rates, better terms for the everyday person to go in and finance a car, okay? He says here, it is becoming harder for the people to get car loans in the U.S., even when their credit is good. Understandable that banks are slow to extend credit when they're trying to avoid bankruptcy themselves, with an exclamation mark. He was fired up. Now this is very serious stuff, because, it's one thing to see home sales slow, but to see the auto sales slow, you're getting in the thick of it, okay? And like I've said before, I'll say it again. By this fall, it is going to be so evident you are going to see an amazing downturn in the economy. All right, so this is what my insider came out and said. They were off by over 100 vehicles in their sales just recently. Now, up to this point, they have been making sales numbers and they're doing all right. They are very large national chain, and they do well. And as a matter of fact, where this specific location that they're talking about is a very well-run, very good oil machine. But this last month, things changed, and it was like out of the blue. And that number of missing 100 vehicles is a pretty good sized number. And their budget was missed pretty significantly. And they didn't make that number. And now, and I said, what about layoffs? And the insider said that actually corporate is on their way and starting to already dig into books, because it was such a quick, such a fast sort of shift. And that is how it actually happens. Last June, I reported on my other channel, I have a channel called The Real Estate Ninja. And last June, there was a seismic shift in the national sentiment of the home buyer and the home seller. We saw a big boom in home listings, but we also saw a massive pullback in offers that were canceled, like escrows that were canceled across the nation. It literally is like a light switch. I talk about it in my side hustle course when I did my side hustle with trailers and with tractors. There's a day when the market gets so saturated and then the phone literally stops ringing. And what I attribute a lot of that to is the what's going on in the media, because it has such a serious, strong effect on the buyer. The seller as well, but really the buyer, okay? And when the buying seizes up, you tend to see more inventory flood the market in whatever industry, right? Because I guess they get scared, the sellers. So what's interesting is this industry that we're talking about, the auto industry, and my insider that works for a very prominent dealer, it is very interesting how fast it's shifting. I'm gonna be very interested to find out what happens next month. But the point being is it's nothing that this one dealership did opposed to another, because as a matter of fact, this one, I've been there, it's well run. And so, it's funny that the executives want to come out and start looking and digging what's going on. Almost like it's happened. They're coming out fast, and it's because they know what's slipping. What can we do to fix it? But they don't understand that there's really not a whole lot you could do to fix it other than drop your prices. And the problem is, if you can't buy vehicles cheap enough, fast enough to get sort of new flooring in at much lower prices, or starting to get aggressive with the prices you have, even if you've got to blow them out to make nothing just to be able to replace them with much cheaper inventory, you're going to be in trouble. And we've talked about the psychology of the dealer. A lot of them can't pivot fast enough, especially the larger the corporations, because you have so much red tape and so many other personalities to get through. Just because you work for a big company doesn't mean you have all your ducks in a row when you go home with your finances. As a matter of fact, usually the more you make, the more you blow. And that's even worse in large corporate settings, whereas a small dealer can see the changing times and pivot like that. Guys, we have exciting times ahead of us. The car industry is headed for a big downturn. So if you've been waiting, hashtag the car that you want to buy down below. I'm going to put hashtag 69 Camaro, hashtag Lambo. I know, because I've always wanted one since I was a kid. I'm still want my Ferraris. Still had those posters up. Hashtag a Cobra. What was it? My Shelby Cobra, but I'm getting a replica, and I want a Resto mod. And then, I'm going to have to go with that C8 Corvette. I don't know why, but I just love that American muscle is kicking Italian and European butt right now. All right, guys, that being said, I thank you so much for watching. The Economic Ninja is out.